Hi, and welcome to Warrior Sites. In the introduction tutorial, we explained to you a little bit about what Warrior Sites is, how to sign up, and how to get around. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about how to set up your Warrior Site and some of the basic how-tos, do's, and don'ts. So when you get to Warrior Sites, and once your site is set up, and once you are ready to go, you're going to go back to this website here, s.wayne.edu. And once you get here, you're going to go to the Login tab at the top right-hand corner there. And this is going to bring you to a login screen. Now, there are two options here, User Access ID and Guest Login. You're always going to use this top option here, which is Use Wayne State Access ID. And clicking this is going to take me to a familiar screen that we're used to on campus. And you're going to fill in your Access ID there, log in with your email password, and then that takes you directly into your Warrior site. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to work on this site here. This is one of our demonstration sites called Faculty Site Demo A. And so this is what we'll be working on today to illustrate some of the features inside of Warrior Sites. So I'm already logged in here, and when you log in, you notice that it takes you to this newly revamped dashboard. So this looks a little different today as of this recording than it did prior. We did some cleanup to this, and we're going to continue making some refinements to make it as great as it can be for you. So when you first log in, you'll log into what is known as the dashboard here. And you get some basic information here about this particular site or blog that you're on, your account, recent things that you've published, some news from our developer, and so on and so forth. Some of this information that you see on my screen, you may not have access to on your screen, as I'm a super administrator here in the system, and you're an administrator or an editor of a site or a particular group of sites. So some of these options and things may vary, but for the most part, you get to see at a glance what is available here. I do want to point out before we go any further that from the main Warrior Sites main site, you'll notice that there's a help tab here. And clicking through to this help tab will take you to a user guide that covers all things Warrior Sites. You'll notice that it's actually not a Wayne State site, this user guide here. It's actually EduBlogs. EduBlogs is our vendor or provider that supplements and supplies the Warrior Site platform to us. But they've composed a library of all different kinds of topics, from how do I embed media to handling files and images, managing posts and pages, managing the privacy settings from my site, adding people, managing widgets and sidebars, and so on and so forth. So this is a comprehensive user guide that you can refer back to and bookmark if you need to make sure that if you ever run into any questions or anything, this help guide will get you going. We're going to close that out for now, and we're going to go back to our dashboard here. So today we're going to actually work on, as I mentioned, our Faculty A demo site. So I'm actually going to find that site here before we get started. And here it is here. And this is going to take me into what you will see when you first log into your site, the dashboard. Okay? So this is what you should be seeing once you log in. We're going to go over a few of the basic elements here. Within the dashboard, there's a Statistics tab. And this Statistics tab, if you're familiar with any kind of website analytics, will kind of give you a general overview of who is visiting your site, who meaning the top pages, okay? Where the countries that they're coming from, where they're coming from, the search engines, Google, social networks, and so on and so forth. And then some information about page views, average time, etc. This particular site, because it's a demo and it's sitting on our Wayne State site, it's not getting a lot of traffic, as we don't necessarily advertise it to the world. It's just for internal use here at the university. So that's to be expected. But if this were an actual site where you are distributing this site on business cards or flyers or using it in your research and so forth, obviously these analytics would look much different. Moving along here, you'll notice that there is a left column of all kinds of tools and things that you can pick from to manage your site. And we're going to explore the basics of those in this tutorial today. The first of which is we're going to look at themes. And so on the front end, this is the actual theme. This is the actual site we're going to work on for this demo and tutorial. And you'll notice that this particular theme, as we explained in our introduction tutorial, has a certain aesthetic. This one has an image here at the top, what we call a header image, a menu, social media icons, some contact information and text that you can put in here. It also has the ability to accommodate a right column. It has the ability to accommodate a left column, though that's not here. And then, of course, the body of the page. This particular theme also has the ability to do what we call 3-column layouts. So column, body, column. And since this is a demo, we have kind of an assortment of different options here. Here's where you can see we just have the bar on the right. There's even an option to implement a roster on these sites. And then we have some examples of how things like tables and that kind of information shows up. So we're going to just dive in here. And so this particular site is already using the theme. If you looked at the introduction tutorial, we talked a little bit about themes and what those are. A theme is basically a collection of aesthetics. And so if we were to compare this theme with, say, faculty B, which uses a different theme, let's just go there for example, you'll notice the difference between these. This particular theme has white space and this arrangement of columns, text, images. This one is different. This one has a left column, no top column, no social media icons, and so on and so forth. And so you would pick the theme that best represents what you like and what you're looking for. And if you go back to the homepage, s.wayne.edu, our main site, you can see the available themes to you at this present time. We are going to be creating new themes and adding those over time, but this assortment is what we have available today. And as mentioned in the introduction tutorial, there is no particular feature that makes this theme a faculty A theme that's different from this thing other than aesthetic differences. Or for example, this theme is named lab, but you don't have to use it for a lab. This theme is named conference, but you could use it for a blog, or you could use it for a lab. This particular conference theme is more image heavy, and we thought it would be best suited for conferences and events that typically have a lot of photography. But any of these themes you can apply. So let's jump in here and see where you would go to look at the themes. And so if you go scroll down here on the left hand side, there's a tab called Appearance. And once I hover over Appearance, there's a menu that pops out, and then you'll see there Themes. Clicking into Themes allows me to see each of those 5 themes that we just showed you on the main Warrior site homepage. And you can see that this site is actively using Faculty Staff A theme. If I wanted it to switch it to Conference or Staff B or General or Lab, I would simply just hover over it and click Activate. The nice thing about Warrior sites is that when you activate or change themes, all of your content stays in the site. So for any posts, pages, and all of that information, videos and pictures and things that you've created are retained. You don't lose any of that. It just adopts to the new aesthetic. So if you switch this theme to this one, or vice versa, all of your text and information would remain in there. It's important to note that certain themes have certain features that others don't. For example, this particular theme has social media icons located here on the top right to be exact. Whereas in this theme, there are no social media icons on the top. So if you were using this theme and you were to switch to this theme, you would do so with the understanding that those social media icons will not be available in this theme. Likewise, you'll notice that this theme has a menu that sits and resides at the top, versus this theme, the menu resides in a left-hand column. And so there are some advantages, gives and takes with each different theme. And so while the content, the information in the pages and posts stays, certain aesthetic elements will come or go with certain particular themes. So if you want to change your theme, this is how you would go and begin to change that. And so once we get into, we found a theme that we like, we think, hey, this looks pretty good, and I want to do some customization. So you'll go over to the active theme from your appearance themes section. And because this is an active theme, I now get the option to customize. And so we're going to click through to customize. And here you can see an assortment of settings that are available for your theme. So for example, we look into site identity. Site identity, here we can see the site title. In this case, Faculty Site Demo A is the name or the title of our website. That can be anything you want. It doesn't change the address, that is fixed. If you want the address changed, you can contact us at class.wing.edu and we can arrange that for you. This site also has a tagline. This is a tagline, slogan, or quote that you can put at just below the site's title. If you don't want to include anything as a tagline, you can simply delete this field. I can also specify the header image that I want to appear here. If I wanted to select a background image, I could do that, or I could leave it all white. Generally, you want to leave it all white because this is going to make sure that the site loads a little faster. Anytime the site has more images, the browser, be it a phone or computer, has to load all of those images. And so the longer that those images it takes to load them, depending on the speed of your internet connection, will determine the speed of your website. I can look at additional theme options here, such as what information is in my header right here. Say if I didn't want a phone number or I didn't want an email address, I could take that out. I could also say, hey, I don't want a tagline, and you can see it disappears there. We're going to turn it on just so we leave the demo intact here. If I didn't want social media icons, that's changeable as well. I can adjust options for search. I can adjust options for showing the author's bio, and so on and so forth. All of these kind of options. In this case, we have an image here that is a background for our footer that we can set here. And we can even adjust the copyright text here. All of this information is under theme options. Likewise, for menu, we can set menu settings here, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in detail later. And then homepage. And so because this platform, which is actually powered by WordPress, has the ability to function as a site or a blog, you get the option to have the homepage be either a static page like this, or it can be the latest thing that we posted. So let's say these were posts or announcements or updates. We can have our homepage show that. Or we can have our homepage show just a static traditional page. Again, all of those settings are available to us here in these theme settings. You'll notice at the bottom here as well that there are three sets of icons, and these icons allow us to toggle between different kinds of devices. This is important because we know from site analytics that over 50%, probably closer to 60 or 70% of the web traffic in the world today is accessed via mobile devices. So while we do use a lot of desktops here at the university, we do know that in the world in general, most people are viewing websites from a mobile device. So these options down here allow us to see what will my site look like in a tablet form. And if we click that, it will show us what our site looks like on a tablet. Or what will my site look like on a phone device. And we can see how the content shapes out. And this rendering is not exactly exact, but it gives us an idea of how it will look and come out. And then we can adjust that accordingly here as we're adjusting settings. Once I'm done changing my settings that I want to customize for my theme, I'll just hit publish, and those settings will apply to my website. To exit out of here, I'm going to click the X here, and then now it's asking me, because I didn't actually publish this, it's asking me, do I want to discard these changes? I'm going to say OK for this demo. This takes me back to my screen here for appearance, and we're going to show you another area to adjust settings for your website. So if we go down here a little further, there's another tab that says Settings. Settings. And when I hover over Settings, I get some additional information here. Some of this you're seeing because of my administrative privileges. As a super admin, yours will look a little different as a regular administrator of your site. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to go to this tab called General. And you'll notice this in your site, Settings, General. And when we click through General, you'll see there's information where you can adjust the name of the site again, site title, or the tagline. You can set an administration address. So when the site sends notifications and things of that nature, you can have that go to a specific email address. It can be your Wayne Access ID or another email address you prefer. You can change the language of your site or the time zone. Not sure why you would, but just in case you need to, it's there. Here you can also specify the date format and the time format that you prefer for your website. Once these settings are made and you're happy with the way that they look, you can go ahead and save changes there at the bottom to apply that. Similar to working in a Microsoft Word document, you always want to make sure that unless the system is automatically saving, that you do look for the Save button on that page. We're going to go back to the dashboard here, and you'll notice that we have some tips here at the top. This is giving us a warning about a plugin. If you're seeing that, you can disregard that. But this first one here is another link to where you can get help, guides, and tutorials that we talked about earlier in the user guide section. And that doesn't appear like it's working. So we'll get that fixed after this demo. And that will take you to the WordSites help guide. We're going to move along here and go back to this section under Settings. Settings. And under Settings, we talked about what's in general, and then we're also going to look at this section called Reading. Reading. And here in the Reading, you're able to also determine or set whether or not your home page shows a list of posts or a list of static pages, similar to where we looked at in the customization for the theme. But more notably, this section is important for when you want to control your site's viewability. By default, we set up all sites to not be visible to the world. In other words, when we create a Warrior site, by default, it is active and anyone with an address can type that address in and get to it. However, because the site's empty and not available yet, we set the site up with a password that's set here. So by default, when we set up a Warrior site, it's set up with this option, that anyone that visits the site must provide this password, Wayne Rocks, and that is in your email. And that's set up by default, so there's nothing that you need to do. And once your site is ready, once you have your pages added, once you have your announcements and other content, images, and whatever it is that you plan to feature, then you can remove that password and choose this first option here that says allow search engines to index this site. So when this password option is on, then no one can get to the site, or they can get to the site, but they can't view the site's contents without that password. And you can change that password. Most do. That's just a generic password that we set up with. And then if anyone were to look at that site, there's nothing confidential on there, but you can adjust that as necessary. The point of this is to make sure that you have a mechanism, which this does, to make your site available and unavailable. Essentially, the site is always accessible, but by password protecting it, no one can see it except those who have that password. So at any point in time, if you want to take your site down for maintenance or updates or things of that nature, you can always put the password back on, and then no one can see it without that password. But in general, once the site is good, it's up, you're ready for the world to see it, you're going to pick this first option here, allow search engines to index this site. These other options you don't need to be concerned with for the purposes of this demo. Once again, we're going to click Save Changes at the bottom, and then we're good to go. It's also worth mentioning that the university uses a certain style of writing called based on the AP style writing guide. And we're going to put a link to this here at the top for the style guide, and you can bookmark this as well. We'll just go to this just to show you what it looks like, and we will put a bookmark here. But the style guide essentially shows you how we format degrees, how we write academic years, whether we hyphenate or not, information for addresses, how we format phone numbers and things like that. We strictly adhere to this style guide on the department sites. So anything on official department sites or institutes and things of that nature, we strictly adhere to this. Writing style is a little looser on the faculty sites just because of their nature, but in an effort to be consistent, it's always good to incorporate that wherever you can. And so remember the style guide in your writing, and you can bookmark that, mac.wayne.edu/editorial/style-guide. And that's a lot to remember, so we'll make sure to put a link for it here at the top, either in this tip area or along the top here. There's also a link already here for it under the Get Help section. So we're going to talk about pages and posts, and before we do, it's a good segue to talk about this Get Help section here. So there's 3 areas, or actually 4, that you can get assistance and help. So we talked about s.wayne.edu and the help button here that takes you to the user guide. We talked about the link here that takes you to the user guide. There's another help link here that also takes you to the user guide. And we'll be adding more help tutorials and information in these areas just so that when you're looking and searching for a question, that you can get that information quickly. There's a Need Help button here that also allows you to pull up information. And then there's a dedicated section here, Get Help. And when we click through to this, it's going to take you to a form. Let's say you had a specific question or something that wasn't addressed or you couldn't find. You can send us a request here, and we'll get you a response to that particular question or concern. Another link here to take you to that user guide a link here to take you to the editorial guide. There's also a Microsoft Teams group chat that you can jump in and have some discussion with other Warrior site owners and editors and administrators. And then, of course, our marketing class marketing help section that isn't necessarily related to Warrior sites, but it does speak on all things class marketing, and so that is available to you. So hopefully you have no problem finding help. We want to make sure that you can get the help. And of course, when in doubt, you can email us at class.wing.edu. So we're going to keep moving along here, and we're going to talk about pages. And so from the left-hand side, if you hover over pages, you'll see that it gives you a couple of options. We're going to select the first one to view all pages. So pages you are familiar with. Pages are what we visit when we look at websites. And so when we click through different things, we're reading pages. And when we click through to here, we can see all of the pages for our particular website. You'll notice here that, again, this is a demo site, so we have quite a few pages that have already been added. But if this is a brand new site, you will likely have only one page, which is a welcome or hello page. It's just a filler content. You can delete it or revise it to be something else. But essentially, this is where you would go to edit and create pages. So we're going to create a new page here. We'll go to add new, or if you're going to hover over, you can click add new from there, just to walk through how the process for creating a new page. So let's say I wanted to create a new page, and I wanted to create a new page for, let's just say, lab hours. Okay, I'm going to use AP style there, and sentence case, my title. This is where you would put the title of the page, and then I'm going to go to the body here. You'll notice that as I go to the body, and after a couple of seconds, the URL or the website address for that page is going to automatically generate, and it did. If I were to publish before this populated, it would generate the link as well. And let's say I don't like that link. Let's say, hey, I think that link is too long, lab-hours, I want just lab. I can click edit here, and then I can edit the URL or the website address to what I want it to be, and then it will save as that. As always, you want to click publish when you're done, and you have a couple of options here: preview, save draft, or publish. And so if you're not ready for this page to go live, which we're not, we're going to click save draft. And then we can look at a preview at the page, a preview of the page as well, to see what it looks like. And of course, it's blank. There's no information there. Here in the body, I can type in information just like I would in any Word document or web form or other website, and I can put all of my information in here. I have the option of using an assortment of tools, bold, italics, underline, different things, similar, very similar to Microsoft Word. Say if I wanted to put a divider on the page, I can do that. If you're familiar with Microsoft Word or Google Docs and any word editing tools, you'll be familiar with these. If I wanted to insert a link, I would just highlight my text and then click the Insert Edit Link button there, and then I can insert the link here. I have the option to set that link to open in a new window or not. And then I also have the options to, if I want to link to other pages that I've already created. Again, in your case, you won't have any pages in a new site, but eventually you will as you populate the site. We're going to click cancel there for now. We do want to look at here on the left-hand side. This is going to give you some statistics for this particular page, which are 0 because this is a new page that we've just created. Pages can take the form of what we call parent and child pages. It is a way to categorize and nest pages one under the other. For example, in this page layouts here, you can think of this as a parent page. This is a parent page, and these are the children pages under it. It is a way to nest pages under each other. We see this, for example, in our department sites, where all of these pages here on the left-hand side are parent pages. And then as we click through, we are clicking through to child pages. And so if we look at this example here, this Bachelor of Arts page is a child page of the undergraduate page. And so parent and child pages are just a way to kind of organize and introduce hierarchy to our pages. The hierarchy is important because that also determines the URL structure. So to set up a page as a parent or a child, I'm going to do that under the page attributes box here. Generally, these top level menu items will always be parent menu items, meaning that you want them to be kind of at the top of the hierarchy. And so that's where they're set. And so you'll select the option no parent, and that's set up by default. I'm going to go ahead and save that draft, or if I'm ready to publish it, then I can do that. But let's say we wanted to nest this page under, let's say we want lab hours to be under about, because that's a kind of a practical section to nest that under. And so let's say we want that to rest and reside hierarchically under about. And so we're going to set this page, lab hours, to be a child page of this parent page, and then we're going to hit Save Draft. You'll notice that the URL is going to update to include its parent page link. So now the full URL for this website is s.wayne.edu. They all start with s.wayne.edu. My website address name /about, because the parent is the about page, and then the name or the URL for this page we're working on, lab. And so the URL structure adapts to whether this page is a parent, or a child page of another parent or not. And so let's say, hey, I don't want this to sit under the about. Let's say I want it to be its own thing. Then I need to take it and make it not be a parent. And if I save that, then the URL updates and adjusts accordingly. If I want to insert an image or some video, we have a way for you to do that. Before we go any further, I want to show you some other options here under Publish. So this is a draft right now, but I could publish it and make sure and push it out. I could also edit it to publish at a future date if that's something I wanted to do. I have the option to browse previous revisions of this page. So let's say there was something I changed on this page on purpose or accident a week ago, and I want to recover that. I could do that here. And then you have also options if I want to password protect this page or just make it private altogether. You have some options for visibility. By default, they will all be public. And so those are the extent of your publishing options here. And if we jump into here, you'll also notice that we're editing in this kind of graphic user-friendly format. But let's say you're advanced, you're a little more comfortable with working with the inner workings of the system and HTML, and you want to see the code. Or let's say you need to see the code because you need to import or paste something in that uses code. Right now we're working in the Visual tab, and you'll notice that there's a Text tab. And the Text tab allows you to see the underlying code of this page. Now you're limited to what you can put in here, and generally anything that could be potentially harmful to the system or the site would get stripped out upon save. but you do have some options, some additional options to manipulate the HTML beyond what is here. That's a little more advanced, and most do not need that option, but it's good to know that it's there. So moving on, if I want to insert some media, I simply place the cursor where I want it, and then I go and click Add Media. Add Media is going to show me all of the things that I have previously uploaded. You'll see we've uploaded some photos here previously, a PowerPoint, and if I want to upload something new, I'm just going to go to my Upload Files tab here. I'm going to click Select Files. I'm going to go and select my file. In this case, we're going to do a PDF. I'm going to click Open, and then that file is going to upload. It's going to show me my link for that file right here. And if I insert that file into the page, it's going to insert it as a link there. That is how I would be able to link to PDFs or Word documents or any other type of non-image document. But let's say I don't want that. I want to insert an image. We also do that through the Add Media. And let's say I want this beautiful picture of Midtown here. I'm going to click this, and then you'll notice that the box is placed around the image. There's a check mark there. And I'm going to say, hey, I want to insert this image. We can see our options for doing that. This system will allow you to automatically size an image is full size. I can also do it as a quote-unquote large or medium or thumbnail, and these are predetermined sizes. So let's say you just wanted to reduce them to one of these sizes. You could do that. I'm going to insert it at full size because that's what my intent was, and then I can insert it into the page, and it drops in just like that. I can move my cursor around and continue editing text like this. But let's say I put it in there and I think that the image is too big. I can click this image, select it, and then I can see the toolbar that pops up when I select it, and then I can hover over here and I can edit this, and this allows me to adjust to one of these sizes. So let's say, hey, I want to make this a medium size, and then I can click Update and it will make it smaller. Let's say I don't like any of those sizes and I want to create my own size. You'll notice that the image, once it's selected and clicked, has 4 corners, and I can take either of those 4 corners and I can click and drag the image to the size that I need it to be. Now, while you can click and drag and the system will allow you to do it, you want to be very careful with this because in general, we never ever stretch an image beyond its original dimensions. So for example, we know that this image in its full size is 1200 by 795. So if we put it back to that size, that is what that image looks like. It looks very clear. If I were to click and drag this image and stretch it any more than its original size, it would look blurry, grainy, and distorted. And we never want that. It just looks bad. And so if you're going to use the custom sizer here, you can scale down, but you never want to scale up beyond an image's original dimensions because it will make the image blurry, grainy, and nasty looking. We don't want that. So you do have a couple of options here to select a formatted size or to insert some custom dimensions, but never stretch it beyond its original size. So we like that image there. Let's say we want to do some more stuff. So let's say we're going to type a new paragraph here. And let's say we want to put an image here. We're going to go back to Add Media and let's put in Michael Jordan. We want to add him in here. And we're going to set this, we want to do like a profile thing. So we're going to make it a profile size or a thumbnail size. We're going to insert into the page. That's normally how this comes out. Let's say, well, hey, we don't want it like that. We want to kind of move this image around with the text a little bit. Clicking this, you'll also see the same toolbar that we saw before, where we also have some alignment options. Okay, I'm going to align this left, and aligning this left essentially allows me to push the image to the right, and it tells the text to wrap around, push the image to the left, and then it's going to tell the text to wrap around to the right. Similarly, if I click this and I say center, or if I say on the right, it will align it to the right. Obviously, this paragraph or this sentence stops here, so it will not stretch out beyond this, but if I wrap it left and I can use these options, this will allow me to make sure that I can place the images and the text in the arrangement that I want. And then, of course, as with everything, we're going to hit save. In this case of this page, this page is still a draft, so we're saving it as drafts. But if it were ready to go, we would just hit publish. Similarly, just like we inserted an image, we can also insert through the Add Media panel. If I wanted to upload a video to here, I could do that. But in general today, we insert video from, let's say, YouTube. Okay, so let's say we go to youtube.wayne.edu. And let's say we have a video on the university homepage. And we like this one here. Okay, we're going to select that. We're going to grab the URL, the website address of the YouTube video. I'm going to pause that and just close that. And then let's say we want to put that on our page. And this works as well for Vimeo and similar video sites. I'm going to paste that URL into the box here. And then we're going to click Insert into Page. And it will now embed that video into my page. We're doing all of this in this one particular page just to illustrate some of the features of that page. And again, so the video is in there, and then I can save that or publish it, and I'm off to the races. So we talked about pages, and pages are these permanent pieces of content that reside on a site. But let's say I wanted to post something like, let's say, an announcement. I'm going to show you a sample site here that makes use of pages. They have pages here at the top, but they have these announcements, or what we call posts or blogs. And we're able to do that as well. There's a section here called posts. Posts. If I click posts, it's going to take me to all of the posts that I have posted on my site. These posts here have obviously been here. We put some content here in this site. You won't have any posts except for a welcome post once your site is first set up. So you can think of posts as temporary, time-sensitive pieces of content. Posts are different than pages in that they're time-sensitive. They're like news items or news articles or announcements. So let's say you were going to post a scholarship and there was a certain application period. You could do that in a post. Or you wanted to announce a new lab member or something of that effect, or some new research. You could put that into a post. And posts are very similar to pages in terms of how they work. So we're going to actually edit an existing post here, or actually let's just create a new one. If you did need to edit one, you could go back in there, similar to how you would do for pages, and you could edit information inside of the post. For the purposes of this demonstration today, we're going to create a new post. And let's say this is our faculty site, and let's say we're welcoming new lab members for winter 2020. Again, my title, just like I did with pages, goes in this box here. And then I can start adding the content into the body of my post. After a few seconds or upon save, it's going to automatically generate a URL or a website address for you. If you don't like it, you can edit it and change that as you see fit. You'll notice the settings for this site formats posts in terms of website name. Again, they all start with s.wayne.edu. My particular website name, and then year, month, day, / whatever the title is or whatever I decide to name this. So this title is pretty long. This URL is pretty long. Let's say I wanted to shorten that. I could just shorten that to Lab Members 2020. And then I can hit OK, and it will accept that. While we're talking about URLs, it's also important to know that anytime you're adding or creating URLs, you're not allowed to put spaces or special characters. URLs should always have all lowercase and letters and numbers or dashes. Like you see here, all lowercase, dashes, letters, numbers. So no special characters or anything like that. And the system will try to correct that should you go out of bounds there. So we're adding a post, and now we're editing the post. And this is an announcement. And so this will appear in wherever we want. In this particular site, this does not have an announcements section here on the site. I do have a box here on the right that shows my latest posts. And so if I were to publish this, it would show up here on the right. I'm going to type in the body, just like I did with the pages. And then I can use the same set of tools, the same information that it's very similar to a page. Where this page, or this post, differs than pages is what we'll talk about next. Similar to pages, though, I also need to mention that there's a way we can format the text on a page or post. For example, generally you can paste your content and information here. But let's say in this page or post, and this is a post, but let's say we were going to talk about different subjects. So let's say this is an announcement, and let's say we were going to talk about a particular division of our lab. I'm just making this up as we go. Let's say we were going to talk about Division 1. The students welcome John Smith. Now, this is just, at this moment, 3 lines of text. It's a little difficult, or could be a little difficult to read. And one solution to improving this is to use what we call headers. So let's say I were to have this. Okay? And to make this a little bit more readable, I can select this, since this is kind of acting as a header or a section, and I can give it a heading. I can give it a heading by selecting this section here. And let's say in Division 1, let's say Division 1 is a division, but let's say there was a team within Division 1, and let's say this was completely making this up. It may not even make sense, so don't kill me, academics. Let's say this doesn't, let's say this is all kind of one piece. We gave this a heading of 1. I can give this a heading of 2. And then I can type in my text here. The purpose of these headers is to give visual delineation to the page. If we save this and then we do a preview, we can see how these headers stand out. And of course, this is a heading 1, 2. I can go down 3, 4, 5. And the headings serve multiple purposes. So the headings not only give visual delineation to the page, but they also help people who are using assistive devices. For example, blind people that use screen readers. The screen reader will come and read this page, and it will read the headers and all the links on the page first. People that have normal vision can simply read and skim through the page as they will. But someone, say, with assistive devices, those assistive devices will read the headers and links on that page first. So this helps us be accessibility compliant as a university and make sure that our information is accessible to everyone, even people with disabilities. But Google and other search engines also rank these headings because it gives the page structure. So anytime you use these headings, it helps Google to understand the structure of that page and how you have that information presented, and understanding that, hey, this belongs to this, and so on and so forth. We can get deeper on that, but that's kind of the gist that you need to know. And so always try to include headers on your page as appropriate when you need to delineate information. We're going to come back now to some of the differences between pages and posts, and we're still working in this post here. And I have the option to format this post as just a standard text post, an aside, which is a specific format, or an image or video or a quote or a link. Generally, we're going to just format this as text. And you can still insert images and things of that nature into this. You still have the same publishing options available, whether I want to keep this as a draft, public or private, if I need to go back and look at previous revisions, or if I want to set this post or this announcement to publish, let's say I want to publish it Saturday when I'm going to be at the beach in Florida. I can just schedule this post now and that will go out on my behalf. But the main difference in pages and posts, not only besides where they appear, is how we're able to categorize them. So because posts are essentially announcements or articles, we're able to put those into categories. And so categories essentially summarize the general topic of a post. For example, like finance. The category acts as a table of contents of sorts. So for example, a good category for this might be lab. Look at that, it's created for us already. Because this falls, new lab members falls in the category of a lab. And I've already created these categories pre-hand. You won't have any out of the gate, but you can add them as you will. For example, when we write content for our marketing blog, we have several categories. And this is going to look different than what I'm showing than Warrior sites, but to give you an idea and an understanding of what is going on here. And so on our marketing blog, we have different categories where we talk about different general topics such as design or policy, things that might be about resources or related to the website migration and transition. And so categories are simply a way to summarize a general topic of what your post is about. They're completely customizable and you're not required to use them, but they do help bring structure. And where these show up are generally in these sidebars or sections or boxes here. Or let's say you wanted to add a menu item that just pulled up posts from lab category. Or let's say you had a particular research topic, and let's say you had a research topic about moon rocks, right? And that's a category. You could tell this menu, I want to add a menu item here that pulls all the posts with the category of moon rocks. You could do that. So we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to finish editing this post. So that's what categories are. And then tags. So tags are, you can think of them as mini categories, and they reflect key points in the content. Key points in the content. So if our category was finance, a post that is under the category finance might be something like stocks or bonds or cryptocurrencies. So if categories act as a table of contents, tags act like more of an index. If we look at this example here, we have this under the category of lab, and we're talking about new lab members. And then let's say we have the materials team here. And let's say the materials team in here, let's say we're talking about certain materials like gold or silver. And let's say, that's in the, we're actually talking about that in here. And we want that to be findable. We can create tags for that in here. And tags are a way that, should we display these tags here or somewhere else on the site, people would be able to click that tag and see all of the posts associated with it. Similar to categories. If we were to show our categories somewhere on the site, you would be able to see all of the posts with that category. It's important to note here that categories and tags do not affect social media search engines. So the tags that you put here don't necessarily show up in Google. Google doesn't rank you higher because of those. And then, of course, some information at the bottom here. If I want to allow people to comment on my blog or not, I can turn that on or off. Once I'm done, I'll go ahead and click publish, and this will appear in wherever I have my posts showing up on the site. So whether I have them here in the home page, whether I just have them a box here on the side, or whether I've put them in the menu here somewhere and people can click through to them. So we took a lot of time to talk about posts and pages because that's where you'll be spending the most of your time. But I also want to talk about a little bit more about where you would go to add additional media. The nice thing about Warrior Sites is that you have unlimited storage space, so you can add as many documents and photos and things of that nature that you need to and that you like. But let's say you're not in a post. Let's say you're here on the dashboard. Again, you have all of these options that you can explore in detail later, and there's a media tab right here. Clicking that takes me through to my media library. It's what we saw before when we were working on the page and the posts, an archive of everything that I've uploaded to date to this site, and of course where I can add in something else. So let's say I'm not even creating a post or a page. Let's say I'm just I have a file and I need to host it somewhere. Well, let's say, hey, I need to send this PDF to someone and it's too big to send by email. I can put it here on my site. I can click it. I can get this link and I can send that to them. This is a way for me to independently manage my media library and content outside of when I'm editing a page or post. That's basically it. So we want to talk about menus next, and that is going to be under Appearance. We're going to pass Themes, and then we're going to go to here to Menus. Menus. By default, well, let's see, what does a default site? A default site will not have menus, or it might have one menu item depending on, based upon what's in there. So in our particular menu, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 items, and then we have items under 2 of those 4. And you can see that reflected here. By default, when you first set up a Warrior site, it's going to add automatically whatever pages you create to your menu. Okay, so you want to come in here and you want to give your menu a name. We gave it main nav. It can be whatever you want it to be. The purpose of this is so that, let's say for some reason you did need to do multiple menus and you needed to change them out throughout the year, you could do that. That's kind of advanced. We won't get into that here today. But you could do that. And of course, save. We always want to remember that save. And so here is our menu structure as it is today. When you set up a Warrior site, this might be checked. So you want to uncheck that like it is now. This particular theme has the ability to display menus in the footer. It has the ability to do a social media menu and the ability even to display a special menu when you reach a 404 page. A 404 page is generally where you go to a page or result on a site that doesn't exist and it says, hey, 404, this doesn't exist. Sorry, you can't be here. And you can even have that particular page display a different menu. I'm not sure why someone would want to do that, but it's nice to know we have it. Moving along here, if you notice, this is our menu that we've created. And so simply, if I want to change this and add it and suit it to my needs, you'll simply, let's say I want to add my pages here. And so this is important to note. These are all of the different items that you can add to your menu. Some of these I have based on this demo site or my access level that you may not, but you will have access at least to pages and posts, categories, and custom links. So let's say we talked about that page earlier called Lab Hours. Now we made it as a draft, so it's not showing up here, but for the sake of this demonstration, let's say we want to add this page here called Research Groups. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to say Add to the Menu. And you'll notice it pops in there at the bottom. And then it now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I were to add, so we're going to go ahead and save this. This is now going to appear as the 5th menu item. And you'll notice that what happened here, so this is a good reason this is happening here. So, websites and menus, they only have so much space allotted to them. And so adding this 5th menu item actually pushed this whole thing down. We don't want that. There's only so much space and real estate here available. So in this case, we want to keep this menu down to 1, 2, 3, 4 items, because when we do, and so now we're going to go back in here and we're going to, let's say we're going to click the drop down arrow, which is how we access that, and we're going to click remove. We're going to hit save. And then we're going to refresh our page, and you'll notice that this is fixed. And so there we know this menu needs to be no longer than 4 top level menu items. And anything else we want to add additional, we'll nest them under there. Now part of this is also because our website title is so long. If our website name were very short, let's just say it said, faculty site, or our first name, last name, that would give more space to the menu. All of this is relative, and you just have to adjust based on your particular site. Of course, if you're dealing with a theme like this, your menu does not, this particular menu scales vertically, whereas this one is horizontal. And so you probably would not have that issue here. So if I want to add this, and let's say I want to nest it under an existing menu item, I click it, I add it to the menu here, and let's say research groups. Let's say that should be under about. I can click, and I can drag this here, and I can drag it to under about, just like that. And now we can see that this is the parent menu item, and this is the child menu item. So just like pages can take on parent-child relationships, the menu can also have parent-child menus, whereas this is a parent menu item and this is a child menu item of this parent. In other words, it will look like this. This is a parent menu item and these are child menu items under this. So for example here, tables is a child menu item of styles. And I can adjust this click and drag wherever I want. Let's say I think research groups should be under here. I can click and drag it there. Or let's say I want to nest it under post formats. I can do that there as well. For now, I'm going to remove it, and we're going to move post formats, because let's say, hey, I think this should be listed under here. We're going to click and drag it over, and then I want to reorder it to this one here, and that's where I think it should be. We're going to leave it there. I'm going to save my changes. Similarly, let's say if I wanted to add a post, an announcement or something that I talked about, I can add that to my menu. Or let's say we talked about those categories, right? We talked about that. Let's say, hey, I wanted to add any post or announcement that's categorized as lab. I want to add that to the menu. I could do that there. But let's say I wanted to add a menu item to another entity that's not a part of my site, right? So let's say I wanted to add a link for some reason to, let's say, nuclear research. Here, this looks good. Let's say I want to add a link to this, research reactors, okay? I just grab my link, and then I go to where it says custom links here. I type in or I paste my URL, and I give it a name. And then I click add to menu, and it will insert a custom link that when clicked will go to whatever link that I assigned it to. And just like with the other menu items, I can nest them under menu items, or I can make them a menu item. I can drag and set their order, and I can change this however and arrange it however I need to. For the purposes of this demo, we won't keep this, so we'll just go ahead and remove it. And this is what our menu will look like. Once again, I'm going to save changes, and then my menu will be there, and I can change it as I need. One more item for our tutorial today, and then we'll wrap up. We're going to talk about widgets. This is also under the Appearance section. Under Appearance, there's a section called Widgets. And so if we look at our demo site, this bar here consists of these individual boxes or pieces of content, and we call them widgets. Widgets. W-I-D-G-E-T-S. Widgets. We can see here in the footer these same boxes, though they look a little different. These are also widgets. This is a widget, this is a widget, this is a widget. And so under this widget section here, I can see all of the spaces to place widgets that are available for my site. So in this particular site, in this particular theme, every theme has a different arrangement of widgets. In this particular theme has what it calls a primary sidebar, which is a bar column on the right. And that's what we see here, primary sidebar. It has a secondary sidebar that would be on the left. And it has essentially 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 columns, where you can place widgets. And you see those 4 echoed here. Within this section, I have lots of different types of content that I can add to the site in the form of a widget. And so you'll see all of the different types of content that you can add in the form of a widget here. And so I can add audio, I can add categories. If I had some custom HTML or images I wanted to bring in from Flickr or a Google search or links, or I wanted to put an additional navigation menu, or let's say I wanted to put a listing of pages, though that might run very long and wouldn't look well, or a tag cloud. So we talked about tags. from posts if I wanted to bring those in, or a box that allows me to subscribe to your site by email. I could drop that in there, or a video, or let's say I just wanted to put in some text. I could do that here at the bottom. You'll notice here that we did insert this. So for example, to bring in or to create a piece of content as a widget, I would click this simply and drag it into the widget that I want, and then it will allow me to configure it as so. I'm going to delete this just because we have one here at the bottom. We brought in and created a text widget that just says sign up, and then I can put in whatever information I want. So let's try that. Whatever information I want. That's the title. I can insert images as well. And then I'm going to hit save. And then if I refresh the page, there's that widget I just created there with the title and the whatever information I want. And then I can add as necessary. The thing that you want to keep in mind here is that, footers have a lot of space on a desktop, but they don't have so much space on a mobile device. And so generally footers collapse and then they stack on one another. So generally you want to keep the information in your footer. You want to keep that as, you don't want to overload that up. 4 columns is probably too much for this footer. Maybe something like 3 or 2 would be more appropriate. And so you generally want to keep your footer lightweight and you want to keep it clean. For the purposes of this demo, we're actually going to, let's remove this text sign up. To just remove this widget, I'm just going to hit delete. Okay. And then let's say, hey, we got another test from a previous demo down here that we did there. Let's go ahead and remove that. We'll go ahead and remove that. That looks like it's in the 4th column. We'll delete that. And unlike the other pages, whatever changes we make to the widgets here, once we do that, they save. They save. So if we're editing this and we edit information here and then we click done, that saves it. But then once we remove it here, there's no additional save that needs to be done. Again, these are all of the types of content that you can bring into these areas as widgets. These particular widget areas show up in the footer. These particular ones show up in as columns on the right-hand side. We're actually going to add one more to this. So we talked about those tags earlier, and so I want to bring in a tag cloud, and I want to add it to my primary sidebar. I want to add it here. Okay, and I'm going to give it a title of just, let's see, things we talk about. And I'm going to say show the tag counts. I'm going to hit refresh. And then we're going to refresh the page just to show you how that shows up. Oh, and we didn't hit done. So we're going to hit done there. And then we're going to refresh the page. And it looks like what's going on here is that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like we might have exceeded the number of widgets we're allowed for this particular site and this particular theme. So let's refresh this one more time. And that's not showing up. That perhaps is not showing up because, let's see, the tags. We'll have to look into that, why that's not showing up. It could be because we didn't save that post that we were working on earlier, or we didn't save those tags that we created, or maybe the tags were never created. But assuming that we did all of that and saved all of that, this would show those tags, and we'll certainly look into that later. So, last but not least, there is another section here called plugins. Plugins. And plugins are essentially items or components that enhance the functionality of your website. So by default, WordPress is equipped with so many things, right? The ability to change your URLs, the ability to add announcements, the ability to add these widgets, and the ability to do all these different things by default. But there's some things that the system does not natively do, and so there are what we call plugins or components or add-ons, if you will, that essentially enhance the functionality of what the site is able to do. And we've made a select bundle of these available. You can look at them under plugins, and then you can turn these on or off as you need. For example, here's a plugin that we've activated that allows you to create advanced tables. And so it talks about what those are. Or a plugin that we have here available is some integration with Canvas. Or something that we have a plugin here that allows you to, let's say, hey, I just use my website for my personal stuff. I don't want people to be able to comment. We have an option here, a component or plugin that allows you to add an option to completely disable comments, so website visitors from making comments. We have an option to, or a plugin that can generate or create timelines for you. Let's say you have a project or research that needs a timeline. You can drop this into a page and create a timeline. And so we've selected a few of these, and we'll add more as necessary and needed. But you can explore these. This again is kind of more of an advanced thing, but you do want to be aware of it and use it accordingly. And if there's something that you need your site not to be able to do that it does not do, chances are there's a plugin for it. And if it's not available, email us at class.wayne.edu, reach out and let us know, and we'll be happy to explore that further to see if there's a plugin that is available that we can turn on and activate, and we can help you and assist you with that. So thank you again for joining us today. We hope this tutorial has been helpful to you. We're going to be creating additional tutorials that are kind of more specific to certain specific types of topics. This is just a general overview of Warrior Sites, how to use it, what's there, how to get in and use it, and to get you going. So thanks so much for tuning in. Again, if you need help or further assistance, you can email us at class.wayne.edu. Have a great day.